This is Platemark. My name is Ann Shafer, and I am your host. It is time for a mini summer break for me. This is a repeat episode from a while back, a bonus episode that I think most people missed, in which Tru talks about his manifesto about being an artist. And I think it has some really wonderful golden nuggets in there. So I hope you will enjoy it. And I hope you will wish me a nice week off. All right, let's get rolling. Okay, folks, welcome to Platemark, Series 2, The History of Western Printmaking. Tonight I've got a real special Easter egg for you. Tonight we're going to talk to my co-host, Tru Ludwig, about being an artist, because I have always felt that it's super unusual for somebody teaching art history to actually be an artist too. So we're going to start with that. Okay, so what you got here is somebody who is mired in art history, and specifically the history of prints. And as you all know, we taught together for 15 years the history of Western printmaking. But what you probably don't know is that Tru is a maker also. In the true spirit of multiples and printmaking, the work often speaks directly to issues of the time. Mm-hmm. They're very of our time, but also, I would say, looking at 20th century history.
That when I started out, because it was the 20th century.
It was back then.
Yeah, actually.
How does that happen?
Tonight, apparently, we're talking about the art historian as artist, or the artist as art historian.
Right, there you go.
When I took my first art history class, it was awesome. And it was taught by Reidar Dittmann, who was from Norway. I was going to St. Olaf College in Northfield, Minnesota. And it was a wonderful class. My very first class was on 19th century art history, just 19th century. Wow.
My first one was on 19th century only French, and it was even more focused. I know.
Well, that's pretty much all they're going to let you have.
Well, French. Exactly.
So that 19th century art history class was amazing, and the second art history class I ever took was the 20th century, which, by the way, I was taking this class in 1980. That was being taught by a guy, wonderful man named John Makestad. That's spelled with 2 A's, Makestad, and he was a painter, and he was teaching this art, and he was a tremendously shy man, but and quiet and soft spoken, and he would do the Birkebeiner every so often. This massive skiing race in Norway, and he rode his bike in from way out in the sticks to St. Olaf, which is in Northfield, Minnesota, and you got to know that we're talking serious winter in Northfield, Minnesota. And John was this wonderfully self-deprecating man who made wonderful paintings. And that was when I took art history from someone who was a maker, and it changes the way a person speaks about it and maybe even reads it, or the things they notice. And I loved Reidar's classes, but John Makestad's classes crawled under my skin in an amazing way. And I came to realize ultimately that what I wanted to do, this is, of course, back before ADD was invented, and I didn't know that was me.
They had ADD, they just hadn't diagnosed it.
Yeah, you just had a kid that couldn't behave. Yeah, you had a kid that couldn't behave and couldn't say, but everybody at St. Olaf College could go to the library, and they'd budget 3 hours to go do this, and then they go do that, and it was all orderly, and I'm just like, splattered all over the screen, and I would literally have to tie myself to a chair to study at night, in the dead of night, when the world had shut down and there were no visual or auditory distractions. I just thought I was this fucked up person that didn't know how to function.
I don't think it's not fucked up, it's what people don't describe as the norm, but they're probably
there's this person out on the fourth floor of Hoyme who stays up all night, and then they take these tests, but they still pass.
Doesn't mean you're stupid.
Well, it sure felt like it, but I made it, and that was the thing. Can I take notes? I could take notes.
I confess I'm a note taker too.
A visual learner, then you can see on the page where you put it. If you're a kinesthetic learner, there is something that happens when you read it from one source and it goes through your body, through your eyes, down your arm, out your hand, onto a page. You have physically, kinesthetically transferred that information. Then you see it again. Sometimes you say it out loud. Then you've used auditory. You're using multiple intelligences to learn the information. If you're sitting in class like a freaking rabbit going blah, 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 and typing whatever the instructor says, you're typing. You are not learning. You are not listening. You are not processing. You are not discerning. You are being a court recorder. That doesn't work for some of us who were born before 2000. And it doesn't stick, and I can't read, I won't read anything of literary value on a screen because I want to savor that. I want to look at the sentence. I want to go back. I want to know where I'm going. I want to know how many pages are left in the chapter. I'm going to want to honor the prose, the writer, the person that put these things together. I'm going to want to spend some time with that because they spent some time putting those words together. That thing called a wordsmith. There's an art form there. I'm not just going to go and gobble it down like I'm at the freaking buffet, and that's what scrolling through a screen does when I read it. I'm just like it's like being waterboarded with information. I cannot savor it.
They're little treasure boxes of information.
Well, sometimes we would.
Let's back up. So you teach Drawing 1 and Drawing 2 at the Maryland Institute
for first year students.
We're in Baltimore, Maryland.
Today, I came up with a thought for what might become a whole assignment for my Drawing 1, maybe 2 Drawings 2 students, because it might be too scary for them for Drawing 1. Drawing 1 is perceptual drawing, observational drawing. Drawing 2 is conceptual drawing, or drawing that comes from inside, and you're drawing things that you see inside your head, but putting it out there.
So this is Micah, the art school
Maryland
here.
Institute College of Art.
Correct. And it's required for every student, no matter if they're a graphic designer or
photographer,
whatever,
product design.
They have to take Drawing 1 and 2.
Absolutely.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you don't get them all. Like they split up into units, right?
They divvy up the students numerically, but I actually had 2 product designers in my class last year and several graphic designers and a couple general fine arts majors, which means you hear that fine arts part, whereas general fine arts means that they can take things like fiber or painting or sculpture or the more fine arts based things that Micah used to be all about. And now Micah, being a part of the 21st century, also now has those other majors that are design-based. They oftentimes use a computer, like in illustration or graphic design, product design, architectural design, game design, interactive arts. That's almost half
of the interactive arts.
Clickety, pointy, of which game design used to be a part. But some of the solutions are creatives. We're not even calling them artists necessarily. We're calling them creatives. Are finding our marvelous ways of improving solutions to life problems that mere non-art thinking people could find. One of my game design students was coming up with a program for something that a quadriplegic could do during the course of the day that would help them understand what time of day it was, so that, because people heal faster when they have an orientation of what time it is of day it is. Or even my product design guy saying, I'm designing some kind of a program that'll help people improve their proprioception. And I had to learn from a senior what proprioception meant, which, of course, now I'm learning from our chiropractors, is that sensation of knowing where your body is in space. Oh, these are all things that, where we are in our arts field and finding solutions for actual problems, not just like, make the stupid little guy go through this hoop. That's what I thought game design was. But some of them have really astonishing applications. Well, back to the beginning. General fine arts majors would be doing fine art kind of techniques. Right. That may seem very 19th and early 20th century. But drawing is still required for first-year students, no matter what their major is.
And transfers.
Of course. And so the idea is that I can't draw a straight line. That's not the point. Whether you draw or not, draw, and you don't realize you do. When you're drawing, when you're on the phone and you make doodles, when you're drawing a map for a friend, when you're drawing a conclusion, when you're drawing a breath, when you're drawing an analogy between you and someone else, you are drawing. And so finding another way, I say that drawing is about noticing. And in like your yoga teacher might say, notice how your feet feel in contact to the floor. When you're drawing, you notice how something, you're paying attention to how something appears, how it looks, or even how could I draw out the information from this object I'm looking at and make it visible for this person sitting next to me. Here are the directions for how to get to someone's house. Don't Google it. Try and draw me a map. Well, it's really not that long, but okay. See, so it's here, and then you edit it. But then you've got this little drawing. And drawings are everywhere. They're on caves. They're on stickers. They're on stamps. They're on receipts. They're on your bank envelope.
I just want to say that I am famous for drawing maps of the neighborhoods around Baltimore. My in-laws moved to town 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. And they have saved every map I've ever drawn for them about how to get to the Giant on York Road, blah, 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 wherever.
And they can read those. But you say, you just find the direction online. And their eyes roll and they want to punch you
No, they want me to draw them a map. Draw them a map.
That's because that visual sensibility is far more comforting than have to get out this foreign thing because, they're definitely older than you are.
Yes.
So they're of 2 generations away from this. Do either of them even own a cell phone?
Oh, yeah. And actually, they're pretty good with cell phones, but they do love my drawn maps.
Of course they do, because they can hold them in your hand, and you can rotate them, and then the screen will rotate them back. Exactly. And you could draw a diagram of how that works, as absurd as it is. A cubit, well, that's the distance between your heel and your wrist when you put your foot on your forearm, which I make my students do in drawing, so they understand how everything is proportionate to something else. And as I say to my drawing students, if you figure out these proportions, you'll be able to park your car better.
Oh, hey.
It's about how things fit together. You notice.
I have to say that from my experience at the Baltimore Museum, teaching history of prints with you and other things as well, you brought classes in for drawing and for history of illustration, that it's and I've said this before, you've probably heard me say it, sorry people, that it's a totally different way of thinking, that this idea of noticing is lost on most people now. Like if I said my kids, like, hey, did you notice X, Y, and Z? Sometimes they do, but not all the time. Like they're not actively noticing in their daily life.
Yeah, because things are pushed at you, they're handed to you, and you cull, but I don't think you notice what you're even dismissing. But everything is a choice if you really think about it. So let's say that I have, if you're lucky enough to have a nude model standing before me on this stand, what are you going to notice? Well, why isn't he wearing any clothing? Well, we learn to draw the undraped human figure because you learn the truth of who people are, that everybody's proportioned differently. You learn about the angles of the body. We can teach anatomy from that, which is essentially almost biomechanics. Oh my God. And in terms of body types, Ann and I are completely in hijinks in terms of our love of dance.
Hijinks, yes. Bodies in motion.
Oh,
they're the
Lord.
best. Men, women, doesn't matter.
You've got to move if you want to move your viewer. We say that through music, and we say it through drawing. I've said that to my students. Motion and emotion are only 1 letter apart. That idea of movement, it's a brilliant, lovely, beautiful thing. So
we all need people, right?
Oh my God.
Human connection is the key to our existence. I think it's all about connection. There's so many of us that sort of have just gone on, blah, 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 blah. But there are so many people who are just standing on the precipice, ready and waiting to share what they have felt, learned, whatever, during the COVID.
Yeah. Even just the need for hugging.
Yes.
Oh my God, skin hunger, just to hug and to put yourself in front of people to deliver what it is you do in your own creative way. It's not easy. It's scary. It's hard. You could fall on your face. In many ways, you could be revealing absolutely everything you are. I heard a new phrase I love. It's vulnerability is a superpower. To leave yourself open to that, it's hard.
I feel like the pandemic has been pretty forgiving for people. I feel like it's opened up a space where we can speak our truth, and the quality of that expression is people are more It doesn't have to be so polished
No.
and more real.
Oh, God, that was the most beautiful part. Like, they were asking us to make videos for students. I'm like, oh, my God, I have to make a fucking video. It was 6 minutes and 27 seconds. But they said, don't worry about the production values. What we want is the content. And, you know, that kind of gentleness that maybe we can learn. I keep hoping against hope that we all take something out of this pandemic, things that we learned that I hope we don't forget. Things like people sitting down and maybe having a meal with their family, or maybe actually listening to another person. If you were lucky enough to be in a pandemic in a house, I know your kids are driving you nuts, you had to teach them. Guess what? You had to teach your own children. They're yours. It was hard work for all of us to keep our shit together if we were by ourselves. Thank God for my cats. Thank God for my friend Ann Shafer. Being gentle with each other and taking it to maybe slowing down. Maybe you don't have to go every place, that you can pick up a phone and talk to somebody on a phone and speak to them. So what did we learn? I'm going to bring it back to the topic of the day, which is looking, seeing, noticing, taking time. It's the gift of time. It's the gift of listening. It's very hard for me because I'm always looking at someone's eyes. But, you know, sometimes when I'm listening really carefully, I have to shut my eyes to hear it.
Really?
Why do you think I take notes?
Oh.
I take the notes so that I can hear. I mean, I'm going to be looking at the shape of your eyelashes. I'm going to be looking at, you know, that little mark over there. How old are you when you got that scar? Oh, look, you don't have very much gray. Oh, you got your hair straightened last week. Oh, those are really good new readers. Oh, that's such a good looking shirt. You know, horizontal stripes, that's really bold of you, but I think they look great. And Ann is laughing her ass off because these are all things I've thought while looking at my friend. You know, and I'm like, oh, those are Betty Cook earrings. But they're not. But they're Betty Cook adjacent. You know, but it's that noticing all those little things, and little things count. People hear that. People want to be noticed and they want to be heard. And drawing is about noticing and taking time and giving time, including to yourself. And
especially to yourself.
Yes, because like, how long is this supposed to be? Well, I want you to make 8 drawings of your very own hand, and this needs to take you at least 2 hours. 2 hours! And when you finish what you think you finished the drawing, I want you to look at the clock and see how many minutes have elapsed. I had my drawing students put them up on Padlet, which I think is the most offensive name at all, because it sounds like feminine protection.
And diminutive.
Gross. But this is where all the students could see what everybody else had done. And then see how long something took and what a reward it was. Or you rushed. You cheated. Lifted your pencil. You stopped looking. You started filling in. You started shading. And there was absolutely no shading allowed on this assignment. Your job was to follow scrupulously every nook and cranny and indentation on the hand, every skin tag, every hair, and you started filling in with shading, which means you're just blathering. That's just filler. That's fluff. That's not noticing. That's covering up like a little black dress. Right? Right? A little black dress covers a multitude of sins.
Well, that's why it's a great dress. Yeah, I dabbled and pretended I was an artist at some point. But one of the most favorite things I ever did was when I was young, junior high school, I think, was contour drawing.
So much can be learned.
Some of my best drawings were contour drawing. Like I had a real sort of patience with it. That's
explain
just
what a contour drawing is.
All right, I will. So a contour, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. Go.
Okay. Basically, it's that I'm looking at my hand and I have the pencil point on the paper and I start following the line, but I'm looking at my hand, not the paper.
Correct.
Right.
It's blind contour. Yes.
Blind contour. And I remembered one of our classmates, this young guy, 6th, 7th grade, maybe, named Joby. He was so cute. He had these great cheeks. And he was sitting in the middle of the class, and we were all supposed to blind contour his face. And I got the curve of the cheek, because I was off to the side of him, the curve of his cheek just right. And I was like, I think I'm pretty good at this.
Was it blind contour?
Yes.
And that's the beauty of it, where you're looking, and I call it caressing your contours. And the ask you is like, why do all of your analogies have to do with food or sex? Because that's what you'll pay attention to. But caressing your contours, you're literally taking the point of the pencil, it's your cursor, but you're looking at slowly, and you have to trace every subtle change, outline, indentation, everything. I'm looking at Ann's mouth right now, and I'm looking at how there's just this little joy that's all lit up in the corners of her mouth. And I work my way across, and then I'm easing my way over there. That's what adds interest and meaning and character to a person, because it says this person spent a lot of their life smiling. When I work my way down to the lower, and then I notice how the shadow is falling across her jawline, and I work my way across, and there's just the hint, just the barest hint of maybe a cleft chin there, but not quite. But it's just there. And I find a shadow line, and I work my way over there, and it's, man, you have no idea what mischievous joy there is in this woman's face. And I work my way over there, and I very gently noticing absolutely ears. You can spend a lifetime on ears. They're such strange little, they're not apricots glued on the side of your head. They're like everything. And then I noticed, like, at the top of the crest of her ear, how they folded over when she was in utero, because certain people's ears curl over a certain way and other people's don't. We work our way around, and you are really caring about what you're noticing. And all you have is the tip of your pencil, and you're going, like Paul Clay said, for a walk with a line. And you're finding out about this person. You know, that contour drawing of going for a walk with that line through all these, it's like traveling to different countries and finding out what happened in each of those places. That's noticing. That's drawing. Oh, God, it's so cool to watch students. I'll make them put it up, and they don't know who they were drawing. And they'll go, oh, that's so-and-so. That's his hair. That's his eyes. And they maybe all look like a Picasso drawing, but there's a truth that is revealed in that contour drawing. And it's a beautiful thing. That's lesson one.
All right, lesson one. Yeah, I think the thing that is magical about the enterprise is that by forcing you to slow down and look at every nook and cranny in a person opens your heart to the fact that we are all the same. We have individual bumps and whatevers.
Beautiful things that make you unique.
Exactly. And that it's probably the fastest way to get people to accept each other as, right? I mean, there's a magical thing there.
Absolutely. No, even during COVID and even during Zoom. And I mentioned earlier this group of first-year students, but forcing them to slow down and look, and then they start noticing about each other because they start caring about what the other person is seeing. And they can tell when somebody isn't looking. They can tell when somebody just freehanded and pulled something out of their ass and like, you're wasting my time. You didn't care. You didn't even try. Or, oh, how did you do that? And you know, some of the people that draw the best with this blind contour thing are the ones that you think, air quotes, can't draw. And they didn't know that they could, because they are noticing. And all you got to do is say, this came out of you. I didn't tell you to do this. This was already in there. All you had to do is go find it.
Well, it's just taking care.
Care, time, noticing. That's all that love is.
Right.
Right? And you can get lazy, and you get lazy in love. It's the same thing with art. When I look at art, I want to see care. I love authenticity. I don't want to see something slick or glib or something that just said, this is what's happening today, and I made a thing and isn't it cute? Yeah, okay, that's fine for 5 minutes, but it's not going to last. And you know, the person that notices something meaty and meaningful and puts it out there, and we breathe it in, and breathing in by through our eyes, that's the magical stuff. So when Ann and I teach history of prints, it was like, here's somebody was doing exactly the same thing that you have to do right now. We're asking you to be open and to be noticing, and what was happening in 1540, and what was like the thing that pissed them off the most in the time, or well, what would sell the best, and what's going to make people the happiest? Is going to be this like lovers on a grassy beach. The guy's playing with the pretty ladies all dressed in it, and he's fumbling her boobie. Well, that happened. Master ES nailed it, buddy.
Yes,
it's been happening every single year since 15, whoever, that's people are people. And they could be on any freaking continent in Pangea. That's noticing. And so History of Prints was an opportunity to take people who went to art school and decided that they wanted to be artists and wanted to learn. I don't know if they even wanted to learn. They wanted to be artists. And I insisted that they notice. I insisted that they fall in love. I insisted, if you're going to write about something, you have to be pissed about it. You have to be angry about it. You have to take you had to be, I can never live without this. You have to take a stand. There is absolutely no room for ambivalence in this. And all I did was ask them to look and care. And Ann and I put these guys out a smorgasbord every week and said, all right, this is what we're going to talk about this week. There might be one thing. All it takes is one, right? It only takes one thing. Yeah. And like, this is really long. We're going over long. And then we pull out some wacky, marvelous thing at the very end. Like, wait a minute, what was that? And they don't want to leave. Bingo.
Yeah. It's true. I felt like the gift we were giving to those hundreds of students that we taught over 15 years was the permission to love things.
Oh, please, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Permission. It's
encouragement.
It's just the simplest thing in the world, really. Noticing it's within every single human being's power on this planet. In art school, I force them to. And yet, you can still take a drawing class and you can fill in with shading. Like, this is a white foam object and this is the way light falls on it. But you could say with History of Prints, here's a round object. This is the way light is falling on it. But what is this object, this human being's brain? What is it thinking? What's it doing? What's it thinking about in the time and the place that it's living? What's happening historically? Are they valued? Are they not valued? Are they humorous? Are they merely props? Or is it just everything can have a story? All you have to do is stop and notice. And all you have to do is ask questions about everything. Everything can be a question if you take the time.
Right.
There's always enough time to stop for 15 seconds, a minute, and notice. Just stop. Just stop and look and notice. Even one dumb thing that comes flitting across your computer screen. This article was about talking to strangers.
What?
Yeah. So, for a drawing student, everything's a stranger. All you have to do is start a conversation. Well, where are you from? What do you do? What do you
find inspiration everywhere?
It's sick. It's just how to have a conversation.
Hold on. Okay. Tru read an article today from The Atlantic, and the fact that it was one of 3 allowed for the month made it more urgent.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see in your eyes that it has spurred a new assignment.
Absolutely. Because here's the other thing. Talking to strangers, all right? Now, we're all coming out of
my specialty.
Oh my God. Ann may have mentioned to you how we drove Ben batshit crazy. Like, hey, how you doing? Welcome to the subway. Let's set up a dance. Here, pass the hors d'oeuvres.
Ben was cringing.
I know. And Ann and I are like, wah, 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 wah. We were making noise on the subway. Not just in London, not just in Paris, in New York. Oh my God, what if they ever see you again? They're never going to see us again. What the fuck? Who cares? I'm a tourist. Fine. You know what? I'm a tourist on this planet. I'm going to continue to notice. I'm that person. Ann laughs at me all the time because I'll pick up something and I'll sniff it.
Yes.
Because it smells wonderful.
Hey, there you go. I think the magic, we haven't even talked about you as an artist in your own right, but I think it comes through in the way that you offer sort of lifelong, I don't even know what, to your students, the sort of basic, it's such a basic thing.
It's so simple, and simple isn't easy. And you have to cut out all the extra crap to get to the simple. Keeping your balance is really hard.
I think there's this feeling that because somehow you've convinced your parents that art school is a good idea, that you have to somehow make more of it. And I don't know, I don't work there, but the basics of it is that you're training people to enhance the way they already think.
Absolutely.
And
burst the boundaries of that stupid box. Think outside the box.
Creativity.
That's the new generation of creatives. Those are the people that will figure out the program on the computer that'll help a quadriplegic person understand this is daytime, this is nighttime. If I move my eyes this way, I'll get this. If you move your eyes any direction, you actually have agency there. If you notice that your eyes are there, if you notice how something smells, if you understand, if you look at something and you think about what does it feel like, how do I draw what it feels like? Or let's say that we get into drawing too, and I say, now I want you to draw what it sounds like. Well, those are all really mysterious things, but it's that simple. It's so simple. You just have to ignite all of these things that exist within you. And with art students, I loved taking them to the National Gallery, to Charlie Ritchie in the modern, what do you guys call it? The new
modern prints and drawings.
Modern prints and drawings. And he said, I love art students. They devour everything. And yes, they do. If you get them in there, and it's like watching bacteria like gobble things up. Once they realize they have to stand up and walk towards them and look at them. Now, if you're just going to expect it to come walking to you, screw you. You don't belong in this field at all. Things don't come to you. You have to go get it. You have to go be curious. Curiosity is absolutely essentially, you have to have that with creativity. You aren't going to get anywhere. A comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there.
Makes sense.
It's just, but it's so simple, it's hard. Notice.
Right.
Take the time. And then find that hook.
And how many parents are sitting there going, wait, I'm paying X for my kid to learn how to notice. But it's a different way of thinking. And I feel like it's essential to our lives on the planet that there's this sector of people who can embrace that bit
and find a new solution.
Right.
And yes, we are. But, okay, so you ask a dog that has 1,000 times more ability to smell than we do. A dog can smell cancer, and a dog can point that out. You ask an art student to notice something and point out something new to you, and you, Mr. Corporate Executive, go, oh, you mean we could try this? And that's a solution that you would never, ever have gotten to. And we all have that ability if we decide what we choose to notice. I could be pissed off about things all day long. It's really easy to be negative, or you could notice the sky is really beautiful color today. It's gray and it's misty and it's beautiful because that's going to make something grow, as opposed to the sky is sunny, so it's perfect. I don't need it to be perfect. I need it to be interesting.
Well, that might be the difference, that there's a recognition that everything has its beauty.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, it doesn't have to be picture postcard perfect in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. And that's why when you teach life drawing, you bring in uncommon. You bring in the pregnant woman. You bring in the old man. You bring in the super skinny, sinewy guy. You bring in the grandmother who has 16 grandchildren, and you know where they came from? Her. They wouldn't even exist if it weren't for her. And that's a gorgeous thing. So are your wrinkles. And so are anything else, that it's all worth noticing. It's really, really very simple.
So we've got it's like two people wrapped up in a big bow in one. Like, the art historian in you can go on about Martin Luther and the 90 whatever. I think you 95 whatever. Theses. Thank you, theses.
Wittenberg Cathedral's 15, 17. Okay, right. Because the guy got pissed. Martin Luther King. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that.
Yeah, that. And at the same time can say to the students in the art history class, the way I would approach making that thing is this. And that's what's missing from most art history professors. They have no clue how to approach the making of the thing. I think we were starting to talk about you as an artist, because I truly feel that is your superpower.
Really? Okay. All right. So in closing, I went and got my master's in art history first. I thought it was more, air quotes, practical. And I didn't think I had the self-discipline to do an MFA, a Master of Fine Arts in Printmaking Drawing. Oh, God, no. Absolutely not. No. Oh, no.
Oh, my God. Okay, so I didn't meet Tru until after both of these degrees were procured.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes. So I was meeting a slightly more confident.
Here's the laughable part. The thing that gives me confidence is Ann Shafer.
Oh, that's a crock.
That is so not. Now, I know what I think is right and I know what I think is wrong. But every week, Shannon was like, here, push more prints at me. Like, okay, we better talk about these. Okay, but. So art history, I mean, there were ideas of, putting together concert series in museums. And of course, I love doing that. And I'm a connectivist and I want to link music and I want to link art and I want to link, oh my God, I want to link science. And we'll talk about
dance.
That.
Right.
Now, you do know that, that my master's thesis was crashing into Y2K. And I only drew larger than life figures in motion. It was called falling into Y2K because I didn't want to draw static figures. They had to be falling figures. Have you ever seen those drawings?
No.
Oh, okay, here's the other thing. As the art handler in me, I decided, okay, painters always have this big canvases and they can't transport them, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing drawings. They're going to be on paper. I'm going to hang them up with Velcro because, boop, and they're up and they're nice and they're tight and they look good. And then you can take them off the wall, boom, roll them up. And I could put my entire MFA thesis into one U-Haul box. There's one that's 10 feet by 6 feet, and it's called Crashing into Y2K, and it's all about consumerism, but they had to be falling figures. They had to be figures in motion. I needed activity. How did I get those? They had just invented those little cameras, those disposable cameras you could have underwater. Now, this is before GoPro. This is before everything. So, Byron, jump into the pool, my son. Byron, jump into the pool. Now I jump into the pool, take a picture. And kept jumping in the pool, so they were falling figures. I had an amazing model, and I paid him in opera tickets because he would never have been able to go to opera, and he could hold it in any pose. I say, I need you to look like you're doing this. And he could hold any pose. It looked like it was falling. So these were all falling figures, and it was about falling in love, falling in debt, falling in hell, fall from grace, all of these different ideas of figures in motion. They had to be as large as life because it's way more interesting. And
people can put themselves in that position.
Absolutely.
Right.
And they had to, if they're people you notice more. And if they're just like stock figures from a drawing, that's like getting kissed over the phone. Right. It doesn't. No.
Kiss over the phone.
Right? So you have a model who's doing this and you get it and you make these gigantic, and these drawings all fit in one box. They're downstairs, and I'll drag this one stupid box out and I'll unfurl these big stupid drawings from 20 some years ago. And I didn't know jack shit. I had no fucking clue what I was doing. I just knew what I needed and wanted to say. And each of them deals with different types of consumerism or credit cards or surveillance. And there was one that's called Leap of Reason. And it's 15 feet long. It's 15 feet long. And in one of my critiques, one of the faculty sat there and said, couldn't it just be a touch smaller? What? And I'm like, you really don't get the fact that this is the one time in my life I have a 15-foot wall and I'm going to use up all the space I can. I'm going to take up all the space I can because I never in my entire life have I taken up all the space I can. And I did. And, that piece is more honest about everything who I was at that moment in time than anything I'd ever made. Leap of Reason. And it was about the way my adorable church, on which I was on the board for the Child Development Center, was treating our choir director, who's gay. And they couldn't hack it. And he's brilliant teacher, brilliant piano player. Oh, God, just freaking amazing. One of those guys that can transcribe anything up a tritone, just like switching it into a different language. And this whole piece was about the leap of reason, as opposed to the sleep of reason or the leap of faith. And how do you reconcile issues of faith and spirit and care and the church and Cub Scouts, which my son was in Cub Scouts at the time, and it's all in there. It's all in this. It's 15 feet long. And it's 4.5 feet tall. It has the labyrinth from the floor of the Chartres Cathedral on it that I sat on that drawing on the floor to paint. And it's probably 7 feet across, but it's skewed because everything's skewed into our own mode of thinking, right? And we're all in this labyrinth and trying to figure out how we fit and how we go. And if you think about, in those days when that was painted, or rather put on the floor of the Chartres Cathedral, probably about 1100 of the Common Era, the people would have this such a strong faith that they would go on their knees and they would complete this labyrinth on their knees to get to the center, to get to the truth, to get to faith, to get to the meaning of what it was to be who I am. It's the leap of reason. It's the sleep of faith. And here's the best part. When I finally saw that up on a wall at a gallery out in Ellicott City, it's so great to be at an art show and you watch somebody looking at your work and they're taking it in. You're a fly on the wall. Best place to be. And this woman was walking up and down this drawing, and she goes, "This is so funny."
Funny?
Oh, yeah. There's jokes all the way through it. There's jokes all the way through it, and it is funny. We're a joke. Figuring out who we are. Make God laugh, tell him your plans. Well, this is what this is. Blah, blah, blah. And then there's one spot where there's the Virgin Mary, who usually, it's the Virgin Orans. She's usually, when you see the Virgin Orans, she's holding her arms up in front of her like she's praying. Except that I put in all these other extra balls that are originally just seriously. She's totally juggling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's all done in this whole liturgical, but that's all it is. It's your job to figure out what matters and what's fun and what you want to believe and what reads right and what's authentic. It has tons of bits out of my son's Cub Scout manual because, and those all come from a page that says, "Wear the religious emblem of your faith." What? Uh-huh. In the Cub Scout manual. I'm like, what? Uh-huh. And then it has directions from your dishwasher. It says, "Warning. Failure to obey these rules will result in death." What? Uh-huh. I took it off. Literally took it off of the I screen printed them on. All that shit's out there. It's like, okay, what do you put together? What's the slip and spark of creativity? How do you put all these ideas in? What do you sift through and come to what matters? And I'm still doing that. It might be not quite as dense as a 15-foot drawing because who wants to have that in their home? That's okay. All I need to do is unroll that for students and say, I had no idea what I was doing when I started this, but I figured out some stuff when I had to paint out parts of it with a broom and gesso. I edited it. I whitewashed it. I made it go away. I brought some of it back and abraded it. And that's what we all have to do to try and get at the truth. That's all. Just be willing to do it or notice. And that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like I don't think I've ever pushed myself through the sausage grinder like that.
Oh, it's a thing.
It's a thing, and I feel like it's not a prerequisite necessarily, but that there's a piece of being an artist that is so tied to the talent that comes out of your heart brain through your hand to create a thing, that there has to be some reckoning, that those of us who went into other fields never have to deal with.
Te ipsum. Know thyself. That's a print I did. Know thyself. And it's skeleton in the same position as Rodin's thinker. Figure your shit out before you're dead.
Right. Life is short.
and it's not getting any longer. Take some time and think it through. And I told Ann that was this Nosce te ipsum print. It's a skeleton sitting there in the same pose as Rodin's thinker. And I kept thinking, beneath the old masters. That's me. I am so beneath the old masters. Right? That was the name of that whole series.
Right.
But what's Rodin's thinker thinking about? And what does Rodin's thinker look like underneath the flesh? And underneath the flesh are bones. And we're all made out of the same bones. And we all look the same. whether we're from this continent or that continent or whatever continent, we're made out of bones and we just are this. And once you're gone, all you get are those. Know thyself while you're alive. And that's not easy. So when I did that one print, I had drawn it onto the wood to carve it. And I looked carefully at Rodin's Thinker, and I positioned the skeleton with strings, and I drew it all in the wood so that I could carve it. And I started to carve it, and I could only do one part of one of the fingers of this whole print in the summer of 2004. And it's this whole, and it's going to be a great looking. I know in my mind's eye it's a great print, and I could only carve that one little spot. You know, once you carve it into the wood, it's there, and you can't get it back. And I stalled out. I couldn't do it. I was kayaking one day in the summer of 2004, and I had to come to the realization that I'm looking up at a pine tree with an eagle on it in the middle of Leech Lake in northern Minnesota in a kayak, feeling so bad about me. And I look up, and I looked at this eagle on the tree, and I went, forgive yourself. And I chewed on that for a year, and I started putting some stuff right, and I started, what do I think? What am I going to do that really is me, that helps, but doesn't take away? What will keep the spouse, the son, the school moving forward, and who am I? And in that moment, in the summer of 2005, a year later, I cranked through that carving. I had my poop in a group. Like I knew at that time what I was and what it meant, and nasce te ipsum, know thyself, and let go. Ooh, very scary, very hard. You can't control shit. Get out of the way and do what has to be done. Breathe, always breathe. Don't just think it all has to be, oh, I'm making a big statement. No, just breathe and look and breathe and make your mark with that gouge into the wood and breathe and look. And that's the one place I can be. I sit quietly and I look and I notice and I make a mark or a two, and I'm in a conversation with a piece of wood. And I look at that print, and sometimes I say, what do you want? I look at the artwork and I say, what do you want? It's not about me anymore. It's about what needs to be said. And that print showed up. I carved it. I clocked the hours that I carved on it. And I know, oh, I better stop now. I'm losing focus. And it's like, don't just do this because you can get it done. No, stop. Keep it honest. Be there. Be real. Be mindful. Be present. Be there. Be here now. And to put that tool into the wood that's that moment of truth. That's like a sperm hitting the egg. It better be the right mark at the right time in the right place with the right pressure, but you can't freak out about that. You have to trust. And that print just happened. And I really still like that print. I can look at that print 13 years later and I go, oh yeah, I remember what I learned right there. And there's lessons in there. There's very physical lessons. And I couldn't do it for a whole year. I had to get right with me before I could do it. So it's not just making stuff. I always want to make stuff that makes you think, and I always want to make stuff that really, really is honest. If I can't have it out there and be who I really am, what do I believe? What's my manifesto right here, right now, today? Then I don't want to make it. And that's the other thing that Ann was going to, you can draw artists, you can do this and that. There are artists that make stuff all the time. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm a feast or famine artist. There are moments where, and Picasso says something about, let there be moments of emptiness and fullness. And there's not artwork for a long, long, long time. And then there are times when it's just, and it's like, it comes together and it happens. It's being present for the birth of that image, that thought, that idea, and then saying, here, and I'm giving this to you. This is all I got right now, but this is what I got. Okay? I hope it helps. That's me, the maker. That's actually me, the teacher. It's all I got right now. Here's everything I got. And I try to do it like an athlete, just leave it all out there on the playing field. And when I get done, and Ann will attest to this, it's time to prop me up in a stool and we go have a nice drinky poo at the end of class, and then life is good because there's always a come down from it. It's like everything is in that moment when the student is in front of you and you have a print in front of you, and it's like, this is the moment. That's the point of creation. It's like when the gouge hits the wood. This is the moment. This is the point of creation. This is what's going to get said, and I pray that it's the right thing.
So imagine learning art history from somebody who feels like that about their artwork. Yeah. So I have felt always blessed to have bumped into you.
And I wouldn't be me without you, because you always prop me up, and then you give me the tools, and then you shove me out there on stage, and I go, and then we have a class.
I'm kind of relentless. Sorry about that.
Oh, God, yeah. The mere fact that we're sitting here with this damn microphone and doing this thing, I'm the luckiest guy on the face of the planet.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we'll see how far we get. But I do believe, I firmly believe that your passion and energy and focus should reach more than the 30 kids you've got in your Drawing One class. So I'm hoping that by sharing this, that maybe we'll reach some other people who might tap into their own creativity.
Please find it. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Of course not.
And just notice it and love it and nurture it like any other small little organism. It could be making pot holders. It could be, lining up rubber ducks on the shelf in your bathroom. Is it pleasing to you? Take the time to notice it. That's all. It's really, 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 really simple when you get down to it.
Yeah, I think it is simple. And I've always believed that looking for beauty in life is a thing. And I wish for that for my kids. And I hope they will take the time to notice things. And I'm not sure I've said that out loud to them, but I've thought it.
I remember these conversations in much the same way that beautiful isn't pretty always. Sometimes beautiful is really unpleasant looking. And that's the other thing that we've done in our History Prints class, was put some really ugly truths in front of those students and said, isn't it beautiful that this artist had the courage to lasso that and put it out there? And it's always like Otto Dix with his war series, or Goya, or Callot, or, those people that...
Your patronus.
Oh, well, Käthe Kollwitz, of course. That it needed to be said. I need this out there. That's a part of it, too. Even if it's like, I need to have these colors match in my living room. You need it out there because it gives you something to go on. Then do it, please.
I feel like sometimes I'm not single-minded, but I do like work that says something. And I have a hard time with things that are just purely beautiful. But I think that's sort of a hangover from being a museum curator and collecting for an institution that, needs to things have to say something. So as a non-museum person now, I have been reminded recently that, artists need to make a living, and that there's a place for decorative whatevers. Mm-hmm. So I'm
sometimes it's okay for things to go with your sofa. And then I say to my students, so hang another sofa over your sofa. But at the same time, is it something you can live with? Well, actually, I don't have beautiful artworks on the wall in my living room, but I have artwork that inspires me. It makes me hungry to go do more. It's not necessarily pretty, but it's really excellent,
Yeah, I think that's a good point. The sort of inspiration part versus pure beauty. But obviously, you all can live with whatever art you would like to live with. But for me, I don't think that all of my things on my walls have sort of deep, dark meanings. But there's always a story behind the acquisitions. And, some of them are celebrating artists that I've worked with or interviewed.
But what's really fun is to hang the artwork in Ann's home. And I've done this, I don't know how many times now. And it's always interesting to see what goes where. And then the dialogue between the spouse and the Ann, and see what happens and what matters. And he's going to want that there because XYZ. But it's always exciting to see what Ann has up. And I will tell you, I relish the opportunity to put up the work that you live with every day. Because even in that, there's some power there. In my own bizarre little way, it's like, okay, we're going to hang this here and it's going to look great. Like, I remember how pushy I was with what's going to hang in your study.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I know that you're going to have a Ludwig in there at some point. But because I know you think it and I know you believe it and I know you help print it. So you know it now. And that, to me, is wonderful. To have this woman with that brain and the way she can deliver that data to people who wouldn't. I mean, she's the other half of the brain for me. Writing. Just what oh my God, what you've laid out there is so fucking brilliant. And it's like, you just sort of slam us together. And I tell my students this sometimes, like, I just wish I could glue you all together and I'd have the Uber artist. It's like, okay, you do the writing, I'll do the making, I'll push all the heavy shit around, you do the logistics, and we'll have the perfect thing.
Right.
And that's what any good relation, any functional, great, wonderful, productive relationship is. Do it. All right, I'm done.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. We will do more of this, and we hope it's been useful for you. So
enjoy your Easter egg.
Exactly. Yeah. Stay tuned for more.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Platemark Series 2, The History of Prints. Stay tuned for more good stuff from Tru and me as the season progresses. I'd like to thank Michael Diamond for letting us use his music for our theme song. I guess that's it. See you next time.